Hey guys, welcome to the Go Team's weekly coach call. So really excited to be with you tonight as we just got done celebrating Easter, many of us. Maybe we had a few too much chocolate treats, or I don't know what you had. You ate too many bunny ears, because bunny ears, there is a calorie difference in the ears. So be careful with that. Just kidding. But we're excited to have you guys be part of our call tonight and just kind of remind us once again as our purpose. And really what we're trying to do, guys, here is to, again, equip you and inspire you as busy coaches with the essentials to bring freedom-bringing businesses that ultimately achieve Beachbody's goal, which is to help people achieve their goals and live healthy and fulfilling lives. So that's great. And what we're trying to do tonight, I think, is going to be probably some equipping, but also my hope and desire is inspiring, because we've got a special guest on our call, which you haven't heard yet, is Mr. Mark Briggs. But we'll get to that in just a second, which we're excited for. Shout out to the new coaches who are either watching this or if you're hopping here on line to the call. We're excited to have our new Go Team Rookies group. We've been having that for about a week now, which has been great to have the conversation kind of build within that group, and really exciting to hear you guys and your journey, and as we take different steps. So because again, we're all taking steps in sort of the same direction, but the pace can be a little bit different, and it's great to have a newbies group of rookies who can be together and sort of talk to some of the same talk and encourage and inspire each other. So that's great. Quick recognition here, guys, for Success Club. We got Steph Morris leading the pack today, which is awesome. And Steph and I are up in the 5 Lives Club. So we are, again, that's that pattern, guys, that we're really looking to do, is just to continually, again, Success Club is just a measure of how many people you are helping each month connect to our solutions, our total solution, which again is the Shakeology paired with a great fitness program. And a lot of times right now, obviously Beachbody On Demand is huge. And of course our portion container systems with all that stuff as well. So that's good stuff. So congrats, Steph, for leading the way. Claire as well at the 3 Lives Club, Success Club 5, which is going to be interesting because there's really no single points anymore. So Success Club 5 is probably going to fade away. It's probably going to be technically Success Club 6, I would imagine, at some point, because it's difficult now to get a single point. So that'll be interesting. So congrats to Claire. And then we've also got our One Life Club. We've got several people, and I know actually Brandy's just about to hop over to Success Club 6. She just told me that. But we got Kelsey, Jen, Brandy, Nancy, and Bonnie all hitting within the One Life Club now. And so you're pushing towards that and getting Success Club 5, eventually 6, will be for this month. Quick volume shout out real quick here, guys. So we've got Steph, Kelsey, Tammy, Claire, Nancy, Danielle, and Bonnie all developing, and we're just putting developing that volume under you guys as you're ranked Emerald and above. What that does, guys, is it helps you with team cycle bonuses. Okay, so some of you are actually in the team cycle bonus right now, which is great. Some of you are still working towards that to try to get towards Emerald, which is great. So I'd encourage you to kind of start to move in that direction, what it means to become an Emerald coach. And that's going to make all the difference in terms of you getting, leveraging the volume that you're getting as well. And then we've also got Jen, Susan, Nicole, Melissa, Susan, Stacy, Melissa, Tina, and Brandy, all, and this is all for last week as coaches of the week within the Go Team. So you guys are equipping others for change. And I want to just remind you guys a couple quick things before we head into the meat of our call. If you are a newer coach, and even if you're a seasoned coach, guys, the wake up call today was really great to hear from some newer coaches. And some of us, like when we listen to the wake up calls, if we're listening to them, and I remember I was initially listening to them, and I'm listening to like mega star diamond coaches, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. Look, it sounds like there are all these amazing things that they're doing. But it's so great to actually hear from people who are not too far from us in terms of, these are, again, first 6 months of coaching, which I think is a great thing to hear from those coaches. And so I would encourage you to listen to that. Again, there's a replay number, but then also I always listen through the podcast as well. I did listen to the first gal, I think it was Cassidy, but I haven't listened to the second one yet. So that's really great. And final reminder is next Monday, we won't be having our team call, but we'll have our sneak peek into Beachbody coaching. So if you have challengers who are kind of moving along in the process and they are maybe like, wow, they're already showing some excitement. They're already showing some progress. Maybe you started a challenge last week, which a lot of us did. I would just encourage you to invite them. And it doesn't, again, don't prejudge, folks, about a person's ability or desire to step into coaching. Because you can go, oh, you know what, they might be just great as a discount coach. But then you're literally underselling or underestimating maybe their potential. Maybe they're ready for a new challenge in their life. Maybe you go and you're prejudging from the outside going, oh my gosh, they're so busy. There's no way. When ultimately they're just looking for a new challenge. And that might be something cool. So I wouldn't pre-qualify again, folks, as we're looking into that. And so invite to that. And I'll make sure that I reshare that again in the Coach Club so you can see that event and invite to that event. So we're excited for that. And it will be really, really great. So our guest, guys, tonight is a friend of mine. He's I got to be on stage with him. It was amazing. Down in Indy with Tony when 22 Minute Hardcore basically released just a few months after that, which was great. And I got a chance to hang out with him and his wife, Kim. Both fantastic people, both really just, I think, have some of the most genuine hearts. And I mentioned that in my post this morning as I kind of did a little shout out to him. But the fact, guys, that having just really some, not only some ability to have a great fitness, have great fitness for yourself. Obviously, you can see Mark, the center picture here. That's pretty ripped, just being real. So pretty amazing. But also to have the heart to be able to help others as well. Man, that pairing doesn't often come, because often what tends to happen is someone maybe can be so focused on their own journey that helping others tends to be sort of a secondary thing. But I think Mark's one of those guys where they lock. His personal journey locks in with how he's helping others, which I think is a great representation of what we're all about as a products of the product. And he's just a beast. And so, Mark, I just want to welcome you to the call. Thank you so much for taking this time to reach out and to be to share some of your information and your inspiration with the Go team.
My pleasure, Dan. First of all, thank you everybody for taking time out of your night to jump on and listen to me ramble for a few minutes here. I'll try to keep it brief and to the point. It's really been an awesome thing. I started out like a customer, like just about, I'm guessing most of you probably did. And I've been through quite a difference there. Looking at that picture in the center, that was my actual day one picture for Power 90 back in 2001. The after picture there was from 2007. And the contrast there, it's kind of funny. I was, the before picture, I was 224 pounds. I was 170 in the after. And just the ability to change the body. In fact, last year when Dan and I were on stage, I was probably about 195 pounds, and now I'm walking around closer to 230. And it's, your goals change, your desire changes, and you can just take off and run with it. And the cool thing is that you can do the same thing with your business. As you come into things, we've all got a why. And mine personally was, I connected with helping people, and that was my goal. From the time I was 4 years old, I wanted to either be a cop or a soldier. I ultimately ended up doing both, retired from the police department with 18 years in, thanks to Beachbody. And, that desire to serve others has never faded or changed for me. And I was fortunate enough to be invited on as one of the founding coaches for Beachbody. I absolutely knew nothing about network marketing, but I had a strong belief in the products, and I knew that they worked. And, I used to be a guy that was uncomfortable walking around at the beach with my shirt off because I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And when I found a solution that really worked through Beachbody, from that point on, my goal was connecting with other people so they would never have to feel that way. There's so many parallels between the fitness aspect of things in the business. If you work out twice a week, as Tony says, you may as well throw yourself down a flight of stairs because you're going to get sore, but you're not going to see results. And it's kind of the same in your business. Most coaches in this are very, very part-time. But even if you're only doing something for 15 minutes out of that one day, it makes a difference. It all builds. It's about being persistent and consistent, just like it is in your fitness. My goal when I connect with people still today is, how can I help this person? There's something I can do to be of service to the people I come in community with. Everybody on the planet needs fitness. Everybody needs nutrition. Um, and I've gotten that way from really delving into who it is that I am. I'm very comfortable now in my own skin. I know who I am. I know what I'm about, and I'm very vocal about those things. So a couple tips that I'll share with you that I share with my team is, we all know what's your why. You also need to come up with what is your definition of success with this business, because for some of you, that might be being a 15-star diamond. For others, it might be making a credit card payment. And the differences between reaching those two are very vast and different. You're always going to stick in the basics as far as the vital behaviors go. But obviously, if you want to be 15-star, you're going to have to put a lot more work into doing that than you are to make a credit card payment. But what's most important is that you feel successful in it is, in what it is that you're doing and what your mission is. So identify that. The next thing is to develop your own personal avatar. I was a cop for 18 years. I was a soldier for 5 years. I tend to connect with MMA fighters, military people, first responders, firemen, cops. I started shooting guns when I was 4.5. I'm an avid shooter. I try and shoot at least 200 rounds a week. And I'm very vocal about that. I'm a big believer in that. And that's who I am. And I'm not apologetic for that. I stand for the flag. I kneel for the fallen. And I will do those until the day that I die. And if that draws people to me that are like me, then that's my audience. And that's who I connect with. Believe it or not, the mommies trying to lose the last 5 pounds of baby weight tend not to gravitate to me for some reason. And I'm okay with that. What am I saying with all this? I'm saying that when you are identifying who you are and what your strong passions are, and you focus on that, you're going to become a flashing beacon, and people that are looking for someone like you are going to be drawn to you. Don't try to appeal to everybody across the world, because you're not going to be successful in that. Focus on what your strengths are and your passions, and that's what your group should be in when you do your challenge groups. In August, I start a hunter fitness challenge group. Guess who comes into that? It's people that, like me, that like to go out in November and deer hunt or elk hunt or moose hunt or bear hunt or whatever it is, but they need to be in shape to get up and down the mountains, and I can connect with them with our programs, which is especially easy with Beachbody On Demand All Access now. By the way, that is the hugest value I have seen in this company since the 10 years that I've been doing this. $7,000 worth of programming for $99 a year, right? So connecting with the right program and staying involved in coaching. Dan hit on something earlier, which was sometimes it's easy to take your eye off of what's important, which is people, and be so focused on making a point for this or selling this because this is the bouncy, flashy object of the week. And you never know what ripple effect you're going to have in somebody's life by sharing something that you're passionate about. I'm going to take a quick segue to kind of share a little story about what I'm talking about here. Thanks to Beachbody, I earn a great living, and that allows me to give back to my community by training first responders, military people with post-traumatic stress disorder here at my house. I have a gym here in my house. They train here for free. I started training a guy back in October. We knew each other. He'd showed up on a couple of my shooting calls that I was on when I was a police officer. He ended up getting shot during a traffic stop last year. There was a national manhunt for the suspect. Suspect ended up being killed by the FBI after he shot one of their SWAT officers. And my friend is currently in the process of being put out on disability for post-traumatic stress. Ran into him at a retirement party for another cop back in October, and he was just obviously not in a good way. And I was very open and honest with him. I said, you need to come down to the house and you need to start training. Just come work out with me, and, you'll be surprised what can happen. He's on boatloads of meds because that's what our medical system wants to do, is take people with disorders or stress disorders and put them on meds, which really, let's put somebody that's depressed on depressants. That's a great idea. Long story. So he says, yeah, I'll think about it. This was on a Saturday. Sunday, I text him. I said, what day are you going to come down and train? He says, all right, I'll come down on Friday. So Friday, he shows up, comes down. We have a great workout together. Comes back on Monday, then on Tuesday, then on Wednesday. And then he starts coming 5 days a week. And we start talking. It's a place that he can talk to me about things because I work the job and I understand the stressors that are involved. I've been involved in gunfights. I know how that stuff goes. And he starts all of a sudden, like 3 times a week, he's like, man, I got to thank you. Man, I got to thank you. I had this gym membership, but can I give you the money from my gym membership? Because I know I've taken up your time. I'm like, nope. This is what I'm passionate about. This is my way of staying connected with the community. This is my way of giving back. We get into about the third week of December. He says, I got to tell you, the reason that I'm always telling you thank you is because the week that I agreed to come down and start training with you, I had planned my suicide. So when you think about the money, or you think about Success Club points in comparison to actually saving somebody's life by just reaching out and doing the right thing, that's what this business is about. And each one of you has the potential to connect in somebody's life, and you may never know what the ripple effect is by you caring about someone. But that's what it is that keeps me going. People say, man, it's been 10 years. How can you stick to doing this business? What is it that motivates you? People are what motivate me. Making a difference in somebody else's life is what motivates me. And that's the path that I've been on my entire career with Beachbody. And that's how I'll always be. And that's not, hey, look how great I am. That's just genuinely who I am. I care about people. And I've made a great living with Beachbody, don't get me wrong. In fact, there was a period of time when I felt guilty about the money I was making with Beachbody. And I talked to Carl. I said, I just feel wrong getting this much money. He said, you have to understand something. You're making as much money as you are because you're helping a whole lot of people. Getting the emails from people just randomly saying, man, I saw you in this X2 workout and you motivated me to change my life. And I'm off all my high blood pressure medications. I'm no longer diabetic. I'm able to go out and enjoy my time with my kids. That's the stuff that drives me. And that's the stuff, when you think about it in the big picture, that matters. So how do you get there? You show up every single day. When you say, I don't know who to talk to. Well, I live in a town of 3,700 people. We have one stoplight in town. Okay, not kidding. One stoplight. And I go and I get gas every day. And I go to Walmart and buy groceries. And I go to Dick's Sporting Goods to look for more gear to spend for my gym. Guess what? There's people there. And I talk to those people. I just randomly will go up and start a conversation with people. And I'm not like the crazy stalker guy, like, hey, how are you today? It's just literally like, hey, how are you today? How are you? And it's just a smile. Or compliment somebody on an article of their clothing. If you're somebody that's not comfortable with starting conversations, try this. This is your homework, okay? This week, compliment a stranger on an article of clothing. Again, guys, don't be creepy with it. Just be like, I'm married, and I always have people say, Mark, how do you talk to women and not come off like you're hitting on them? And I say, well, I'll say, you know what? Those are a really nice pair of shoes you're wearing. I think my wife would like something like that. Where did you get it? And they'll tell me where they got it. Do you work out? I mean, you look like you're pretty fit, and then it just spins off and the conversation goes from there. But that's how I still meet people. We all, if you've been in this business, you've probably exhausted your short list. So you continue by just being passionate. And again, all of this circles back to knowing who you are, being comfortable in your skin, being proud of what we have. That's the other thing. Man, don't be timid about this business. We are in a business that truly changes people's lives. We're not selling some little lotion that they put on their skin and they look pretty and they feel good for an hour and they get a new shipment of it every 30 days because we are connecting people with a lifestyle change. Guess what? It's hard. Everybody doesn't want it. And when they don't, next, move on to the next person. We're not in a convincing business. We're looking for people that want what we want. But when you're true about who you are, and that's the other thing, is always be true about who you are. And it's got to be about them. It can never be about you. But by making it about them, it's going to come back to you tenfold down the road. It may be a little bit longer investment, but if you're truly in this for making a difference in people's lives, you're going to be amazed what can happen a year, 2 years, 3 years. This is not a business that you're going to blow up and grow huge in a year. You have to understand that going into this. You can make great strides. You can make big difference, but you're still learning. You're still building traction. If you were a nurse, for example, and you went to school on how to be a nurse, like you're going through your training with your program and staying plugged into your team, you're learning that skill. But then when you transfer and you go into the hospital setting, guess what? Now you're really learning the job by actually getting out there and doing it. So when you're going through things, when you're going through your trainings, when you get advice from people, like the homework assignment, don't say, well, yeah, he gave me this advice, so I'm just going to sit back and I'm not going to do anything with it. Go out and do it. You have learned knowledge and you have activity knowledge, as Jeff Olson says. By the way, if you haven't read The Slight Edge, pick it up and read it. Has nothing to do with any particular MLM. It has to do with life. And they did a rewrite, I think, in 2013 or 2014. It is great stuff. So pick it up and read it and then apply it. You've got to take what you're learning and go out and do it, and don't be afraid and don't be apologetic for it. Be proud of who you are And I'm telling you, every one of you that's watching this call, you are a perfect person exactly how you are. I don't care if you have weight to lose. I don't care if you have weight to gain. I don't care if you're your perfect ideal body weight. I don't care if you have scars. I don't care if you have no hair. Everybody here is perfect as they are. So embrace who you are, love who you are, and then you're going to become a light for other people to gravitate to. Does everybody understand that? And I'm not singing Kumbaya. I swear to God, I'm not going to do it. I do that sometimes, but it takes a lot of money, and we're not even going to talk about the fund. So all that being said, I always like, and I don't know what, Dan, I don't know what your time limit is here. I will sit on here and answer questions if anybody has questions for as long as you've got them. I usually block out 90 minutes when I do these calls. I don't know, typically most team calls are 30 minutes, but I really want to be able to connect with you and help you through whatever it is you might be struggling with in the business.
Well, ours tend to be right around 60 or so.
Okay.
But we don't necessarily need to go that long unless, again, as questions provide here. Absolutely. So we'll make that happen. So, couple things, guys, as we you can start thinking that through. Mark, before we get into questions, I want to, this is just the fun part that I would love to ask for, just like the Tony connection. How did that, I think part of us would like to hear some of that history. Like, how did that all happen? How did you first get asked to get into the P90? Obviously, P90X Plus, I think, was your first big endeavor into all that. I know you've had some success with Power 90. So let's hear a little bit about that and your relationship with Tony. I think everybody wants to hear a little bit of that story. I would guess everybody a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
That way, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version as best I can, because I can get to rambling about. I mean, I did Power 90 back in 2001. I was recently divorced, which meant I was also broke, and I was not in the shape that I wanted to be in. And normally, I would never have bought an infomercial product because I thought they were all scams. But for whatever reason, there's Tony on the beach in Hawaii with his shirt taped to his chest so it didn't blow open. And he's talking about this program. Well, lo and behold, the infomercial comes to a close. I pick up the phone, I dial the number, I do the program. I lose 40 pounds in 90 days. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. So a couple weeks go by, I kind of go back to working out the way I used to train. I really didn't understand nutrition still at this point. I kind of gained back a few pounds the wrong way. And on comes this infomercial for Slim and Six. So there's Debbie Siebers, and I'm like, well, I don't know. But I recognize Beachbody. I'm like, hey, that's the company that Tony Horton works for. I'm like, well, it looks like a chick workout, but whatever, I'm going to buy it and I'll give it a try. And then I couldn't walk for the remaining 6 weeks. And I dropped about 25 pounds during that 6-week program. But during that time, I really followed the nutrition plan that came with it. And another interesting thing happened was I started connecting with other people through the Beachbody message boards and sharing what I was doing. And I was getting lots of email questions. So it was actually coaching long before it was coaching. And it was because of the urging of the people on the message boards, I put in for the transformation contest. So back in the day, if you put in for the Power 90 transformation contest, you won it, you got a trip to Hawaii. Slim and Six, you won the transformation contest, you got to go out to LA, where I'd never been before. And you do an infomercial with Debbie Siebers. So I'm like, this is cool. So I end up going out there. One of the guys I worked with, who had seen what I was doing, did it with me. He ended up winning as well. So we both went out to LA. And the last night there, we had this huge party down in Hollywood, and who shows up and crashes the party but Tony Horton. And I'm like, I've got to go say hi to this guy. This is the guy that like started me off and changed my life. And I went up and I said hi to him. We just had kind of similar senses of humor. And we just kind of hit it off as friends. He ended up giving me and a few of the other people a ride back to our hotel. And that night he had us go through Ab Ripper X. He's like, at that time he said, well, this is the ab program for the new, we just finished the test group today. And then I'm like super stoked. So we get down there, I go home, I immerse myself. I'm like buying every Beachbody program I can get, and I'm going through them. And I was one of the first 100 customers to go through P90X when it came out. Carl Deichler had a group called the P90 Explorers. So I did that. I was in the infomercial for that. And then I started going to Tony's camps. Like any chance I had, I'd save up money. I'd work overtime. I'd go to one of his camps for the weekend. So I think I'd been to Philly, and I was out to Phoenix, and eventually I made it out to his house and trained with him out there, and he just became one of my best friends. And that's kind of how it all took off. And so I got the call. He said, hey, Carl wants to do this program. And at this time, we had just got done with like a Chicago fit camp. And Carl said, hey, he wants to use you in this program, but he wants you a little leaner. I was walking around at like 210. And by then I had kind of understood nutrition. So I leaned out, I dropped down to 170 pounds. And that's what I weighed when we shot P90X Plus. And they actually filmed that in 2 different parts. So originally it was just going to be an ab workout and a cardio workout. So we shot that. I was home for maybe a week, got called back. He said, hey, you want to come back out? Carl wants to do this resistance program. So I go back out, we do it again. And that's kind of what kickstarted it all from there. Actually, I guess I should back up just a little bit. In December of 2006, I got invited to come out for this presentation for this network that Beachbody was launching. At that time, it was called $1 Million Body. Later became Team Beachbody, as you know it. And I'm like, let me see, you want to fly me out to Hollywood, put me up in a really nice hotel and feed me and everything for 2 days while I listen to a presentation? I'm like, cool. And in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? If I make enough money to offset the cost of my supplements and programs that I'm buying from this company anyway, it's a win-win. And who knew that 2 years later, I'd be retired from the police department, making more money by double in 2 years what I was making with 18 years on with overtime. So that's kind of how it evolved, and that's where it went from there.
Wow, so cool. That's amazing. So now I'm gonna just quick poll in the group here real fast. You can raise your hands. How many of you have done a workout program with Mark Briggs in it? Looks like most people have. Okay, so we got 22-minute hardcore. If you're doing
Bonnie, you have homework.
I have homework. That's great. So 22-minute hardcore, and then of course P90X3, P90X2, which was my transformation program, by the way. So thank you for that, Mark. That's great.
I did do 2 minutes hardcore.
Okay.
All right.
So my homework's done.
All right. Good job. No homework for you.
All right. So let's hear from you guys. What questions do you have for Mark? What would you like to hear from him about, maybe business or fitness, anything? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Looks like, John, you want to ask?
John does have that inquisitive look on his face. And Jessica, I don't know what you're laughing at because you look equally inquisitive. It's always crickets when it starts out. So just somebody throw the ball out there.
Yes.
No, I would say, just like you've heard many times, I mean, you were the part of the motivation. I did 3 rounds of X3 and lost like 50 pounds and really transformed my life. Really got into the Shakeology and stuff like that. And that's what connected me back with Dan. And really, I did it all on my own. I didn't do a challenge group or anything like that. I'm going to say I'm joining back in with this group, the Go team. It's just great having support. You know, right now we're not necessarily active in it, but just the ability to be a part of the team and you know, opportunities to meet people and encourage one another and just change. That's been a great opportunity for me.
Awesome. Great work on the transformation, by the way. And that's what really honors me is hearing that I made a difference in somebody's life, you know.
Yep.
And you may not ever hear a lot of the stories, and it's not, and you don't have to be in the videos to do this. Like I said, a lot of what I do now is working with military and first responders and people with post-traumatic stress, and that's kind of where my passions move to, you know. And the cool thing with Beachbody too, no matter where you want to go with stuff, you can drastically change your body when you lock into the eating plan. By the way, we have 6 home direct orders of Shakeology that come to my house. That's how much of that stuff we go through. And I hand it out to people, you know, just when they come here. I'm like, you've got to try this stuff. It is fantastic. But, you know, the transformations are amazing. We literally have programs, if you think about it, day 1 beginner to pro level athlete, everywhere in between. I remember when Body Beast came out, and I'm like, this is such a departure from what Beachbody stands for. There's no way that this is going to work in 90 days. But I'm going to prove to them that this doesn't work because I'm really going to dial in and I'm going to go after it hard for 90 days. And by gosh, I ended up loving that program. It took me back to the first time I lifted weights when I was like 15 years old in high school. And, you know, I did a round of it, and then I did another round. Long story, I did Body Beast for a year straight. And I went from 192 pounds to 230 pounds. And then when I got the call for 22, Tony calls me up. He says, hey, man, I got this new program I'm working on, but you got to get in shape. That's Tony speak for you're too bulky and I need you to lose weight. I'm like, all right, how much do you want me to weigh? Because now I've got it down to a science. It's like, it's not about weight. You just need to be in shape. I'm like, all right. you said that. Now, what is it you're looking for? He said, dude, you need to be in Navy SEAL fit shape. I'm like, okay. So I changed my training modality. I went back to my MMA stuff that was my base. I went back to, hard, intense cardio. I was no longer lifting heavy weights. I switched to like body weight stuff, push-ups, light weights with high reps, and I dropped 40 pounds in 3 months to be ready for it. I showed up, we filmed it, I was 192 pounds. Went through it, did the launch, and now I'm back up to, I was 227 this morning because I'm back to heavy weightlifting. Because that's what I like. I do MMA twice a week, and I lift weights. Mongol pick up heavy things and put them down. So, it's just pretty cool. And when you can relate that to people, and kind of in our own journeys, I think people kind of get hung up sometimes on this, I need to look a certain way, or I need to have this aesthetic. And it comes down to, what is it that makes you happy? Because when you have a program that makes you happy and you look forward to doing it every day, you're going to stick with it. If something's on the schedule, I tell people all the time, they say, well, I'm doing P90X3, but I don't feel like doing accelerator today. I'm like, well, what do you feel like doing today? Well, I kind of want to do combat. Well, then do combat. You have the whole selection right there. So I'm actually custom creating programs for customers now where they'll come to me and they want really specific things. So I can get really specific. Like if people want to lean out or add lean mass without putting on much fat, I can pick and choose the Beachbody program they're going to do on that day, and I can plug all that stuff in together, and I can give them a 90-day program or 60-day program that's completely customized to them. And you guys can do this stuff too, but you have to have familiarity with programs, which means you have to try it a little bit. You don't have to love everything, but you have to try. How many of you have done yoga booty ballet? Yeah, I did too. But I could say I tried it and I didn't. It was not my thing. My inner goddess was put to bed a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I'm just being real, man. That's what it's about. I mean, and this is the other thing. Don't be so, I see coaches that are so uptight about talking about it. Have fun with it. Have fun with people. That's connecting with people is all about just be real, be emotional, be vulnerable. Share your struggles. In 2015, after we filmed 22, actually, we were filming, we're doing the rehearsal for 22. I partially tore my lat tendon and teres major tendon doing pull-ups. I was supposed to be the pull-up guy. Tony heard it from across the room. Excuse my language. He turned around and said, holy shit, was that your shoulder? I said, no, it was my back. He said, keep me posted on that. I go home. I don't say anything. I'm doing band pull downs. I'm like, this thing's messed up. I mean, I can't do any pulling motion over my head. So we go back 2 weeks later, and Stephanie Saunders is kind of like Tony's right-hand woman. I said, Steph, I can't do pull-ups. That's how I ended up being the twist punch guy in Resistance 1, because I couldn't do pull-ups. And to this day, by the way, can't do pull-ups. So we went and filmed it. I left the shoot. We wrapped it like midnight. I was on a plane at 3:00 in the morning, going to Fort Bragg to train 3rd Special Forces Group guys. I was there for 2 days. I came back home, and then we ran into Labor Day weekend a couple weeks later, and I thought it was going to be a really good idea. I can water ski. I'll just hold on with my right arm. And then I completely tore those tendons. So I did that on a Sunday. Was in the emergency room that night. They did an MRI because my friend's a doc, and she's like, we're not going to do the x-ray nonsense. We're going to get you an MRI. She's like, you definitely have something torn. The blood's all pooled in there. I got up the next morning, my arm in a sling, and I went out on my elliptical. And I did my one good arm and my 2 good legs for 30 minutes, and then I was training to do a go ruck, so I struggled, and I put a weighted ruck on, and I went out on a ruck march. I got back, and then 15 minutes later, my doc called and said, yeah, you're going to have surgery on Thursday because you tore those completely off of your humerus. So I went through a year. It took me a full year to get back to 100%. And the 1-year anniversary, I celebrated by doing a Spartan race with my knucklehead 3rd group buddies down at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And in the whole time that I was hurt, I had 2 days off. I had the day of surgery and the day after surgery, and then I was doing something. So encourage people when they go through this stuff and share this stuff. And I'm not some crazy masochist that loves pain. It's just my brain needs workouts as much as my body does, and there's no off switch. As long as there's air in my lungs and a beating heart in my chest, I'm in the fight, and I'm not out of it. And I take that same mindset and I apply it to my business, because believe me, I have the frustrating days just like everybody else does. I may have my whole day of work lined up, and then something comes up with my stepson, or my wife needs me to go do something, or the dogs get sick. It's just, it's life. We all have that. So bulletproof your mind and strengthen your mind. I know I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but this is all kind of important points that I want to share with you. Okay. If you're not doing personal development, do personal development. You've got to do it. I was in the very first group, and that time it was called 90 Days to Diamond, and Larry Zimberg was the guy that was running that. My dad was dying of cancer at the time, and I was out in Massachusetts, where I spent months taking him to chemo appointments. And had it not been for doing the personal development, which, by the way, I was like, this stuff's nonsense until I started doing it. Had it not been for that, I don't know if I could have upheld the daily regimen and been the rock that both of my parents needed. It had that profound of an impact. So when I share that with people, it's important that you understand, and it's just 10 pages. If you don't have time for 10 pages, read 2 pages or listen to an audio, or, Dan talked about getting on the podcast for the weekly call. I mean, that's personal development. Anything that goes into your head that makes you better. If you watch the news all the time, what do we have? Well, negative. Before you know it, you're going to think the world's going to implode in 3 days, and we're all going to get sucked into a black hole, right? But if you bombard your brain with good things and you tune out the news, guess what? Good things go in, good things come out. That's just kind of how it works. Make sense?
Good word.
Right, I'll stop rambling for a minute.
No, that's great. So, Mark, what do you what any particular, as we're on the personal development topic, any particular personal development that you're reading lately that you've liked, that you'd recommend maybe to our coaches?
Yeah, let me see if I actually have my phone's in the other room. Yeah, hang on. I'm going to drop my headset real quick, and I'll be right back because I can never remember titles. But I got a bunch of. I'm an audio guy more than reading, so hang on.
Sure. That's great.
Mingle amongst yourselves.
All right, Steph. I think you had a next question. Yeah, you were unmuted, about ready to go. Is that cool? Okay, so we'll get you next after he comes back. Mingling. We are mingling. Mingling. There we go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
You're an Audible man, I'm betting, yes?
Yes, I am. So right now in my, okay. All right, so this is going to impress you. Number 1 that's in here. The 5 love languages for men. They have it for women as well. If you're in a relationship, you need to understand how the other one thinks, right? Awaken the Giant Within, Anthony Robbins. Mm-hmm. This one, again, I didn't write it, so please, I don't mean to be offensive, but this was a really good one. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it's basically about getting all of the excuses and drama out of your head and stop letting the things that are holding you up because your mind says, I can't do that. That's what that one's about. This one, probably one of the best, The Energy Bus.
Oh, yeah, so good.
By John Gordon. That was awesome. Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins. Daily Self-Discipline. This one also was one of my super high list ones, is Relentless, From Good to Great. And then I throw in some modern stuff too, like some historical stuff. As I said, I'm a soldier, so The Lions of Kandahar, which was a great story about the battle for Afghanistan. For anybody that has any kind of health issues, as you get older, your hormones tend to go kind of goofy. I have thyroid issues. So I got The Thyroid Connection, which is a really long audio book. It's like 10 and a half hours long, but it really goes in depth about natural treatments for thyroid. Because if you go to your regular MD, by the way, if anybody deals with that stuff, insist on seeing an endocrinologist and don't deal with your general MD that does not have experience with hormones, because I guarantee you they'll jack you up and probably put you on something like Synthroid and put on a bunch of weight and feel like crap, and it's really not going to help your energy levels. Mm-hmm. The Body Keeps the Score. And that's kind of geared towards post-traumatic stress. So I just recently, like in January, I was very public about it. I deal with post-traumatic stress. It's a label that nobody that has it wants. But really what post-traumatic stress is simply the body's reaction to a stimulus that it adapted to stay alive in a certain environment, which was good when you're in a combat environment. When you're no longer in a combat environment and you're in a home environment and you respond to a stimulus or an aggravation the same way that you would in combat, it's not a good thing to have. So It's not crazy people running around loose in the streets trying to hurt people. And anybody, by the way, you could have post-traumatic stress from being in a car accident or living through a tornado. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So if you know anybody that deals with it, it's a great book, and it really dives deep into understanding it and how to deal with it in a positive way. Book Tribe by Sebastian Junger. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, which is another good one.
That's a good one.
Ask Gary V, of course. Do we have any military people here? Anyone? Okay. If you have military people that you deal with coaching, book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Amazing book, because what he does, Jocko was a Navy SEAL commander in Iraq. He was in the fight to take back Ramadi. And what he does is he takes combat operations missions and then applies them into a setting in the modern working world. So your military people that you deal with, you'll find are very regimented. And that book was a great switch for people that I've got in my team that were having a hard time kind of getting the grasp of Beachbody. But when they converted it from military to civilian side, it was very helpful.
That's great. So Mark, so I'm thinking, so can we open it up to some questions? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's great. So Steph, you had a question, so let's have you open up there, my dear.
All right, and can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, oh good, okay, I've had that issue before. I'm just curious to know, you said you've got your nutrition down pat now, so I'm just kind of curious to know what kind of nutrition plan that you might be following and what kind of supplements.
Sure. I'm actually a licensed nutritionist because I saw the value of the nutrition. And when Beachbody comes out with programs, it's very hard for them to really come up with something that's specific to a whole broad spectrum of people. So their programs are great. I think the portion control stuff is great for people learning proper portions, but if you really want to get to the next level, it's got to be individualized. I follow a macronutrient-based program. So depending on what my goals are, I like it now because I'm kind of at my natural body weight, so it's very easy for me to maintain without going up. But if Tony called me tomorrow and said, hey, we're making P90X12, we want you to be in it, but, I want you to get in shape, I know it means he wants me around 190 pounds. I know exactly how to shift my specific macronutrients to get there. As far as supplements go, there is no blanket answer for that question. And if somebody tells you specifically that there is, they're fully due, because supplements are just that. They're created and designed to fill the gaps from your regular diet. So if you're a super clean eater, and you're eating really highly nutritious foods, you probably don't need the same kind of supplementation that somebody that doesn't eat very well is going to need. The one thing I recommend across the board for everybody is a good quality multivitamin. And if you're using Shakeology, that's more than covered. In fact, I usually tell people you need to be on Shakeology because it covers so many things and eliminates the need for a whole lot of supplements, even if people don't follow the most clean diet. When I work with my nutrition clients, one of the things, there's actually several things I talk to them about. The first thing is I want to know what their goal is. What is your end goal? And I'm very specific, whether it's lose weight, gain weight, maintain weight, lose body fat, whatever it is that their goal is, I want that to be specific. The next thing I need to know is what their age is, because I want to make sure I'm connecting them with a training modality, first of all, that's not going to hurt them, hinder them, make sure that they're doing the right things that are going to be in line with that goal. And the third thing is I'm going to connect them with the proper nutrition based on their metabolism, based on their body type, because obviously somebody that's an endomorph, so the pear-shaped person that looks at a Twinkie and gains 14 pounds, is very different from a lean beanpole person that can eat an entire box of Twinkies and doesn't gain an ounce. We hate those people, by the way. Mm-hmm. Or a mesomorph, there's just, a mesomorph is naturally athletic, muscles up pretty easily, and that they can shift their stuff very easily just from making some small tweaks in the diet. And once I know that stuff, as well as their activity level, because obviously a construction worker is going to eat very differently than somebody that sits in front of a computer all day, then I would prescribe them very specific amounts of protein, carbohydrates, and fat in grams per day for them to shoot for. And People find this hard to believe, but when I was in the test group for 22, I had a pint of ice cream every single day. There's a stuff called Arctic Zero. They make one called Brownie Blast, and they have one called, it's chocolate chip cookie dough, which is my favorite. But it was 44 grams of carbohydrates for the entire container. Now, at 190 pounds, 185 pounds, my body will process 42, 45 grams of carbohydrates in a sitting. Conversely, if my wife, who's 135 pounds, wanted to do that, she could only eat maybe a quarter of that or half of that in a sitting. So you get what I'm saying? It's not a blanket prescription for everybody. I know that I can handle about 45 grams of carbs. I can do probably 50 grams of protein in a sitting without having any kind of issue. My body's going to burn it, especially based on my training and my workout modality. So did that help? Too much information? You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just curious, who did you get certified through for your nutrition?
Dr. Joe Klemeski goes under The Diet Doc,
Okay,
and he's out of Evansville, Indiana.
okay.
Joe works a lot with bodybuilders. Like he'll take guys that are wanting to compete in bodybuilding. He does amazing stuff, and he'll have these guys getting ready to walk on stage without carb depleting them, without water restricting them, just by adapting their diet. So it's a natural thing. The other thing that's important, I see a lot of stuff that's going around the net now about people doing this keto diet.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very, very long-term dangerous. Short-term, it's okay. It's kind of like doing a refresh. And I'm just being honest here. We've got this Shakeology 3-day thing, the week-long thing. Any diet that you're greatly restricting your caloric intake on, guess what? You're going to lose weight. You just are, unless you're 105 pounds to start with, and then maybe you won't. But what happens when you go back to eating regular food is you're going to put the weight back on and then some, right? I think they're great for a temporary thing. Like if you've splurged and you're like, I need to clean up my diet, and you do it for 3 days and then you can get back on a regular plan, I think it's awesome. And that's a great way to do it. But anything that greatly reduces any macronutrient, whether it's protein, carbohydrates, or fat, it is not long-term sustainable, and you can have serious, serious side effects. Keto, people are going to mess up their kidneys. They can have all kinds of problems doing that. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Atkins was the big rave for a long time. Super high protein, super low carbs, right? What happens when people go back to eating because you can't leave that stuff out of your diet because your body's not made to function that way long term? You put the weight back on. So, there's a lot of good things out there that you can do, but anything that drastically reduces any of the macronutrients is not long term sustainable, and it's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, and guys, I think the thing too that always concerns me is ketone, especially right around our area in Indiana. There's a lot of ketone. You guys noticing that? A lot of gyms right now. There's about 3 or 4 gyms that are really hopping on the ketone diet bandwagon, and I'm just so concerned for so many. I've actually had a guy who I was working with before. He's like, "Yeah, I'm feeling great, man. I dropped X amount of pounds." I'm like, "Dude, you don't know what you're getting into." And again, I'm not even so concerned about the whole idea of them just getting after they go back to normal eating. It's actually what they're doing to, like Mark mentioned, their bodies, their systems. Like honestly, so like hormonal levels, I'm at the hormonal level. That's the thing I'm most concerned with because, so
you can wreck your metabolism very quickly.
Yep, that's where you have to
take a long time to rebuild it.
Yeah, Hashimoto's and big time problems potentially. So yeah. All right, who else has got questions? Brandy, I know you've got something. Come on, girl, what you got? You worked out with Mark Briggs for many a day with 22 hardcore. So I got to hear something from you, right?
Hey, so I guess I don't really have a question, but I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. Completely inspiring, and like you said, I've just been working out with you for many days now, and it's been so nice to listen to you, so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, each and every one of you have a story, and you just need to learn how to tell it. I used to have people tell me that they were intimidated to talk to me because I'm a little bit intense. But you all have a story. No matter where you are in your journey, I guarantee you there's somebody that's going to relate to you. Okay? So don't be afraid to share your story. It all circles back to coming up with your personal avatar, embracing who you are, thinking about what it really is that you're passionate about. You know, when you start these challenge groups, you don't have to start Beachbody super duper fitness, blah, blah, blah. No, if you're into crochet, start a crochet group. And then you can talk about the things that you're doing daily, how you keep your hands in shape by doing knuckle push-ups with Tony Horton. And I mean, I'm being slightly sarcastic, but it's the same kind of thing. You know, I'm an NRA life member. So guess what? I appeal to those guys. I go to gun shows and I wear my P90X stuff. It's just people, every time people start a conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's just simple.
Yeah.
It's simple.
And I think when you're like, because everybody has their own unique story, it's funny because, Mark, I think there's that, maybe that's the thing that I think sometimes we struggle with, is that we go, well, Mark Briggs, he's this NRA gun dude, got all this good stuff, you know, that's interesting. You know what I mean? But like me, my story, not all that interesting. So what would you give advice to?
What might be interesting, you know, people might say, Mark, your stuff's interesting. I guarantee you there's as many people or more out there that are turned off by what I do and what I have to say. And they're not my audience, and that's okay. And I'm good with that. And you have to understand that each and every one of you, you have something special about you. There's something that makes you you. Beachbody's branded their stuff. You need to brand yourself. What is it that makes Dan Dan? What is it that makes Dan special and separate? You know, it's not about cloning yourself to be somebody else. You know, I see some of our big coaches that are trying to be like and emulate these people that have podcasts and are doing all these. And I'm like, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk already exists. Don't try and copy Gary Vaynerchuk, because you're not going to do it. Be who you are and embrace who you are, because people spot a copycat a million miles away too. Be genuine, be who you are, be proud of what you're passionate about, and share it. Just don't be afraid to share it. You see me on these calls, and you've seen me on stage, and you've seen me in these videos. Most people don't know that when I was a cop, you would be hard pressed to get me up in front of the podium and address the 15 people that were on my shift. You know how I got good at being a public speaker and being up on stage in front of 25,000 people? By doing it over and over and over and over and over and over. I didn't practice things until I could get it right. I practice things until I can't get them wrong.
Okay? Ooh, good word.
And you're going to fall along the way, and you're going to stumble, and it's okay. I do live videos, and I stumble and stammer, and I have ums and ahs, and who cares? That's real life. It's real life. Don't make everything you're doing about Beachbody. Share who you are, because that's what people are going to be attracted to, is who you are. And once they're following you for who you are, they're going to want to know what you do and how you do it and how you connect. And that's what you do, and that's how you teach them. And also, don't be afraid to talk to other leaders, other people that are successful. Say, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I just have a few questions for you. If they're a real, true leader, they're going to share that with you, because leaders take care of the flock. Leaders are not about, look how cool I am. They're about you, and they're about the people that want to know and want to come up. That's what a leader is. That's the difference between a leader and a manager, right? I'm sure we've all worked for people that were managers, that people did stuff out of fear. And then you've had people that were leaders that you did stuff because you wanted to work for them and you wanted to make them happy because you cared about them, right? So always be a leader in life, no matter what it is you're doing.
That's a great point.
I just ramble.
No, that's great. So guys, I would encourage you, especially as you're running into coaches that you connect with, maybe if you saw them at a, I don't know, Super Saturday event, or you even, like, honestly, even saw them on a national wake-up call, and they're, 6, 7, 8-star diamond, reach out to them in a private message on occasion. Just, hey, could I get 15 minutes with you on a, that kind of a thing? You'd be surprised at how many people would be honored to do that. Obviously if they get 15 calls like immediately after doing a national wake up call, they're probably going to get a lot of that. So you just, time it appropriately.
You also never know. Here's the thing at the end of the day. I'm no better than anybody else, anywhere else. Okay. We're all in this kind of for the same purpose. If somebody resonates with you, reach out to them. I have people all the time say, man, I listened to you tell your story, and it was like, I see me in you. Reach out to them. And I mean, there's nothing more flattering than have somebody reach out to you and say, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time? Because I want to know how you do things.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And guess what? If they say no, okay, next. just like the business, right?
Yep.
Just like that program you do where you plug it in, yoga booty ballet, you do one of them and you're like, wow, this feels really awkward and strange. And I say, I'm not going to do this ever again. And I'm sorry, inner goddess, but you have to go back in the closet.
Namaste home from Buddha.
Namaste,
right?
Namaste in here anymore.
Namaste in here. Okay, that's good. All right. Anybody else before we kind of close this out here? Real quick. Really good.
All
All
right.
right.
I could real quick, Dan, I want to thank everybody again. Truly, it's a pleasure and an honor being able to come on these calls. You've got great leadership on your team that cares about you, that reaches out and tries to set this stuff up for you. This stuff, the presentation Dan did, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And again, just thank you very much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
All right, let's hear it for Mark and open up the call. Ready? Unmute all. 1, 2, 3, go. Woo! Ready? 1, 2, 3, get some. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good.
Get some.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you all. You have a great time. And
All
God bless.
right.
If I can do anything for any of you, don't hesitate to reach out, okay?
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, man.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to stop the recording.